I also did not post a video from yesterday. I just remembered. All right, make sure our masks are up, please. All right, so we already knew about 1 and 3 because they were vertical, right? So if I turn it around, boom, they're congruent. All right, what were the other angles we found? Were congruent to angle 1. Perfect, so I put, if it matches over 8, and then I flip it over, angle 6. So let's mark that with 1 arc. All right, so let's trace angle 2. And I want you to do the same thing. I want you to move this around and find the other angles that are congruent to it. Okay, and then since this is a different angle, we have to use 2 arcs now. We have to use 2 arcs now. So whatever angle is congruent to angle 2, put 2 arcs. All right, we already know about angle 4 because they're vertical angles. All right, what were the other 2 angles we found? Look, 5, perfect, and 7, because 5 and 7 are also vertical angles, right? All right, so what do you notice about this intersection and this intersection? Copied it, I could paste it straight onto here. Do we see how they look the same? I'm going to see. All right, now I don't know what I was saying. That just shook everything I was doing. All right, so if I copy this intersection, I can paste it straight onto there. All right? These are crackers. All right. Also, the people at People at Herm. Do you remember those things? It was like Ermagerd. Remember all that? Ermagerd, snur. Ermagerd, Herm. Okay. So the people at home just heard me sneeze. Okay. All right. So let's just make up an angle. Let's say this is 60 degrees. Look at my hands. They are just all messy. I promise I wash my hands. All right. So let's say that angle is 60. What do I know about angle 4? It's 60. All right. What do I know about angle 5? 60. What do I know about angle 7? 60. Cool. Now, is there a way that I can find angle 1, 3, 8, or 6? Yes. So, this is where if I cover it up, what do those 2 angles form? They form what? They form a line, right. So that's a linear pair, right? So these 2 added together are supplementary, or add to 180. So then how could I find angle 1? Right, so how'd you get that? I don't know who said it. What? Right, so I would do 120 minus 60, and that would get me 120. What did I say? 180 minus 60 gets me 120. That was right that time, right? Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're paying attention. All right. So if this is 120, what do I know about angle 3? 120. All right. What do I know about angle 8? And what about angle 6? 120. Oh my gosh, did I use the same? Oh my goodness. Hopefully you weren't copying it from there. Hopefully you actually used your brain. All right, but do we see now that if I took this intersection, copy and paste it, the angles are all the same, right? They're all in the same spot. Do you see that? Yeah. Okay. So, there are awesome names for these. Okay. So the blue angles, if I look at the blue angles here, okay. So, real quick, like, when we were talking about in between our parallel lines, we call that the interior. What does interior mean? If you're an interior decorator, what are you doing? You're decorating on the inside, right? Okay, so inside my parallel line. So this kind of tells you a map of what's happening. So what do you think the outside of my parallel lines are called? Exterior. So when we're going to talk about two angles, we're always talking about angles in different intersections. Okay, the only times we're going to talk about angles in the same intersection is if we say vertical or linear pair. Other than that, we're always going to be talking about angle from the top intersection and angle from the bottom section. Okay, so if I look, this transversal line will tell me if, so I need to use alternating. What does alternating mean? Right, changing. So if you say alternate, if I'm on this side, that means when I go to the next intersection, I'm on this side. Okay? So alternating means I'm changing sides of my transversal. Now, I could also do same side. So if I were talking about same side and I was on this side of the transversal, that means in my next intersection, I'm going to be also on that same side. Okay? So we use it like a map. So we use same side or alternating to talk about which side of the transversal. And then we talk about interior or exterior, talking about the if we're on the inside of the parallel lines or outside. Okay? All right. So let's look at these blue angles here. Are they on the inside or the outside of my parallel lines? They're on the inside, right? Are they on the same side of the transversal or alternating sides? Right, so blue angles, we're going to put those words together, are an example of, we're just going to, that's awful, that's awkward. Let's say are alternate, remember that means sorry, I messed up my R. So are alternate, because we're alternating sides, and they're on the inside, so interior.
Is that A or
It's, I just messed up my R. Okay, so alternate interior, because we're changing sides of my transversal, and we're on the inside. Okay, so let's look at these blue angles. They're both what measure? 60. So they are congruent, right? So alternate interior angles are congruent. Now let's look at the green angles. Okay, are they on the inside or outside of the parallel lines? They're on the inside. Are they on the same side of the transversal or alternating? Alternating. So they're also alternate interior angles. I'm going to write alt int. Are we okay with that? A little less writing. All right, if you notice 120, 120, they are also congruent. Congruent means equal. All right, let's look at the red angles. So let's look at these red angles here. Are they on the inside or outside of our parallel lines? Outside, so exterior, right? Are they on the same side or alternating sides of my transversal. They're alternating. So they are alternate exterior angles. All right? And if we look at those, 60 and 60, those are congruent. If you forget the names, unless it's like a vocabulary question, just always assume they either, so if you think, can I trace that angle onto the other angle, and your answer is yes, then they're congruent and you can set things equal to each other. All right, let's look at the purple angles. So the purple angles, all right, here and here. Okay, so they're on the outside and they're alternating. So they are alternate exterior as well. And if we look, they're both 120, so that is congruent. Congruent means what? Equal. Same measure. All right, so alternate interior angles are congruent. Remember that symbol. And alternate exterior angles are also congruent. All right, corresponding angles. That means they're in the same spot in both intersections. So angles in the same spot in both intersections. All right, so what does that mean? So same spot in both intersections. So if I look at angle 2, that's in the top right angle, right? That's the top right angle. So if I look down here, I have to find the top right angle. So what angle would that be? Top right angle of the lower intersection. What angle would that be? 6. Okay? Now, could I trace angle 2 onto angle 6? Yeah, so they are what? Congruent. Okay, so an example would be angle 2 is congruent to angle 6. All right, you could also do this for if you wanted to do angle 1. Okay, what would be its corresponding angle in this lower section? What? Yeah. So angle 1 is the top left. Angle 5 is also the top left. So angle 1 is congruent to angle 5. All right, so far, all of our relationships are congruent, right? Let's look at same side interior. So same side, and we're on the inside. So that would be 4 and 6, right? That would also be, in a different color, 3 and 5. Now, can I trace 4 onto angle 6? Do they match? No. Now let's look up here. That would, so same side interior would be like 3 and 5. They are not congruent, right? But what do they add up to? 180. What is that called? Close. Supplementary, right. So, same side interior. So same side of the transversal. You're like, wait, what's the transversal? The transversal is that line that like cuts through the parallel lines. All right? And on the inside of the parallel lines. So, they're not congruent. Oops, sorry. Not congruent. Okay? But we said they are. Remember, they add to 180, so what are they? Supplementary. All right, sup. So that means if I said angle 3 plus angle 5, I would get 180. Angle 4 plus angle 6 gets me 180. All right, so let's talk about what we learned. So what does bisect mean? Bisect? It can be an angle, right? Cut in half, so two congruent parts. All right, so if I have alternate interior angles, where are they? Are they on the inside or outside of parallel lines? They're on the inside, and we change sides of the transversal. All right, so we have alternate interior are congruent, alternate exterior are congruent, corresponding congruent, same side interior, supplementary. All right, your homework. So look at this. So your homework is just to go through. You do not have to solve. And I want you to write what type of angles they are. Okay? So like this one would be alternate interior. And then I want you to write if they're congruent or supplementary. Okay? So that's your homework. So then this one, number 6, would be corresponding. And they are congruent. All right? So even down here, like number 10, alternate exterior, and they are congruent. Okay? So I gave you 3 out of 20. Okay? So don't have to solve. I just want you to write what type of angles they are, and then if they're congruent or supplementary. Okay? And then we can solve on Monday. Okay? So homework, classify type of angles, state if congruent or supplementary. So do 125. Alright, so we learned bisect, we learned parallel lines cut by transversal, and we'll solve on Monday and review on Monday as well. I can get this.